Hello, hello. Welcome to our episode 42 of our Ellie Talks podcast, your insight in the world of sustainable textiles and fashion. Our guest today is Céline Delaey, CSR officer at Dassy. Welcome,
Thank
Céline.
you. Thank you.
So Dassy is a leading producer of workwear, and in her role, Céline is responsible for developing and implementing the company's sustainability strategy. Interesting topic, and it's the last one before our summer holiday. Okay. So we'll be back in September. Céline, before we start diving into the topic of CSR manager today, we would like to get a little bit personal. Can we maybe ask you what fascinates you in life? What do you enjoy doing outside the professional life?
Well, I'm actually quite introverted, so at least one day a week I like to recharge all by myself, going for walks in the city. I'm a city girl, or sometimes in nature when it suits me. And I love just listening to podcasts, riding my bike. That's how I recharge.
So you have heard the 41 episodes before of the Ellie Talks.
Almost all of them. Not all of them, but almost, yes.
Great.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a real podcast fan.
Great to hear. So is there any specific experience that inspired you to work on sustainability?
Yeah, actually there is. So almost 10 years ago, I did an internship in Kenya where it was really life-changing, where I discovered complex topics like social solidarity and the complex relationships between the global north and the global south that really fascinated me. So I went ahead and did another degree in sustainable development. And I actually started this degree thinking I would end up in NGOs or something, that would be my path, to work for NGOs. But while I was in that degree, I discovered that the real impact and real change could be made in corporate life, in businesses. So then I did a next internship at JBC in Belgium, at the CSR department. And there my passion for textile fashion and my passion for sustainability, it all came together. And for me, that it clicked. And I was sure that was what I wanted to do with my life.
Wow, that's great to hear. And the enthusiasm, you can feel it in the room today. Let's zoom into your role as a CSR manager at Dassy. We know from the preparation that it's a very remarkable journey as well. So for the people who don't know the company, can you maybe explain what Dassy does?
Yes. So Dassy is part of a group, the Workwear group. Under the group, we have, of course, Dassy, which is our biggest brand. It is a brand of workwear and personal protective equipment. But we also have ProTech. It's more like a retailer where we sell finished products that go together with our own Dassy brand. And we also have a private label, Dress Confect, and our own production site, GP Garments in Sri Lanka.
Okay, and how did you end up there? You spoke about UBC. How did you end up in the workwear company then?
I actually started my journey at the R&D department. Mm-hmm. So when I finished my degree in sustainable development, it was 2019. And it was actually really hard to find a job in CSR in my region. Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and did a lot of spontaneous emails to find a job that would suit me. But I always heard the same answer. We're not looking for anyone for CSR specifically, or we already have a working group covering this. Or the worst answer I got was from one company that even said, our marketing department does CSR. So we have to remember that a few years ago, I really had to convince people about CSR. Yeah. What is it and why do we need it? A lot has changed in a few years. So back in 2019, I shifted my train of thought, and I thought to myself, if I want to have a job in CSR, maybe I have to find a company that suits me, where I feel where I have a future, and build CSR from within. Maybe that's the way. So I answered to a vacancy at Dassy for R&D assistant. I was always very transparent about my double agenda, about the fact that I was okay starting with an entry position and just taking more and more CSR projects along the way.
Yeah.
But I was always clear about the fact that one day I dreamt of doing this full time. And so that's how it went.
It's a very interesting perspective to start from within the R&D, the product development, which is actually key to evolve into CSR. So that's a very interesting approach to see. But you're the first CSR officer. You created a job yourself. To what extent was sustainability then already a focus for Dassy?
Mostly the social compliance, so the social part of ESG was already a very big part of the company, because we have our own production site in Sri Lanka, GP Garments. In GP Garments, there is a great head of compliance, and together with the vision of the general manager, they have been doing amazing things. Even when I was new and unbiased, I felt that it was an example for how production in the Far East could work. But also there's always been a very big focus on quality, because quality is so important, of course, for everyone, but mostly for workwear. Quality goes hand in hand with safety, of course. So also the quality, the testing, the extensive research that goes into the product is also something that we can build on now.
Okay. And what were the focus points for you in the beginning?
My main focus point was actually building a strategy, because you cannot really start doing CSR if there's no strategy. A clear, sharp strategy that you can always refer back to, that guides you in discussions. Should we do this project? Shouldn't we do that? Something like a thread that guides everyone.
Okay, the thread, that's important.
Yes.
So, and if you look at your role today, what are the things that you do on a daily basis then, based on that strategy, I might assume?
So we have, our strategy consists of 3 pillars. The first pillar is circular products, in which we focus a lot on, we have a preferred material matrix and push ourselves to keep researching better materials, more sustainable circular materials, but also under this pillar we cover things like end-of-life solutions, repairs. We're researching repairs. The second pillar is sustainable operations. So how is the product made, in what kind of situation is it made, where we cover our carbon footprints. We committed last year to science-based targets, and now this year we are in the process of getting our targets validated. So that's also a big part of what I do. Yes. But also under sustainable procedures, there's also the hazardous substances and things like that, and overall health and safety. And then the third pillar is transparency and due diligence, where we focus on the relationship with our suppliers, and we focus on how we communicate, why do we communicate, and what tools do we use. For instance, we're researching life cycle analysis, we're researching, of course, digital product passports, things like that.
Interesting. Maybe let's go back to the beginning. You talked about the first thing you have to do is setting a sustainability strategy. How do you begin doing that? What are the first steps to take?
Well, it's interesting. I was looking back at when I first started some time ago, and I actually realized that starting a new strategy looks very much like a double materiality analysis that we have to do. Some have to do now for CSRD. So I'm not saying do a full double materiality analysis if you don't have to, because of course it's a lot of work for small and medium enterprises, but we can learn from that. It's a bit the same. When I started with the strategy, we also set a scope. Who are our stakeholders? What is our supply chain? And then in the next phase, we're looking at, okay, where is our impact? Is it negative or positive impact? Are there any financial benefits or risks? And then from there, you get a very clear vision of what is important, what are the key focus points, because that's what it's all about. We want to focus our resources and time on a few topics to make our impact really sharp and make it last.
Yeah. And do you have any wins in the first year you start with a strategy?
Yes. Successfully convincing management of creating a CSR department and having them realize why it's needed and that it's actually needed felt like a great win. So after a year of being at Dassy, I already got the chance to start full-time at CSR, and the CSR department was created. So I never would have dreamed that it would go so fast. That was a win, of course. But also a win is when people you have to convince in the beginning, and people who are maybe even non-believers, when you see them change and you see them getting on board with you, that's also a great feeling.
Oh, that's nice. Of course, CSR role is not a standalone, you already mentioned, but you also need involvement of other teams. Did that go well at the start? Are there any insights you can share about aligning everyone?
Yeah, I always say when you're a new CSR professional in a company, you're a newbie coming to tell people who've been doing their job for 20 years or more that now you have to do things differently. So it's not always welcome. People don't always like to hear what I have to say. So that did take some time. The key for me was repeating the message over and over and over again, sometimes even until I'm tired of it. And to this day, I still do this. So it's been 3 years now, and still to this day, I start every meeting and every presentation I do for the company with a visual of the strategy, zooming in. Why am I talking about this topic today? How does it fit in the bigger scheme, in the bigger picture? So really reminding them each time again of the simple message of this is why we do it. And I think that's the key.
Okay, great. And did you get any help internally? Did you feel the support, or did you need external help as well?
I was very lucky to always have had the full support of CEO. First, the previous CEO who gave me the chance to build the strategy, and then our new CEO, Veronique, who is really on board when it comes to ESG. That helps a lot. But also, luckily, I got some help. I got to use a consultant. So we got amazing guidance from Möbius. I learned a lot from them, because to this day, I'm still alone in the role. And as you can imagine, it's quite a lot. So I was very happy to have someone help.
A sounding board.
And a sparring partner.
And of course, Ellie.Connect as
well. Yes, sure. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Okay. Well, now that you say this, it's true that I've used Ellie a lot as well as sparring partners. Yeah,
that's great to hear. So when you start with the strategy, then you implement. So what are the first implementations you did in terms of CSR, and what were some of the challenges in implementation you faced?
So we started by formalizing a lot of things.
Amélie, Community Manager for Ellie.Connect, interrupting just briefly your favorite podcast to ask you this question. Are you ready to make sustainability a priority? Are you ready to take concrete actions? Ellie.Connect offers you the network, the tools and the content to help you achieve just that. Go to Ellie.Connect.com and register today. But first, enjoy the rest of the episodes.
When I started, the company was still an SME. Now it's a big company, but that shift from smaller company to large company comes with a lot of things that were in the minds of people and in the way of working, but not on paper. So a lot of things had to be put simply on paper, policies, things, data, to back things up. For instance, there were, of course, even before there was CSR, of course, we had initiatives to have more preferred materials, more circular or more sustainable materials, but it was never backed by a strategy, or it was never backed by data. So an obvious example is carbon footprint. One of the first things we did was calculate our full carbon footprint on all 3 scopes, and set targets and make a roadmap, and then you can really start to have the initiatives that were already there. You can look better at them and say, okay, this one fits in the bigger plan, this one doesn't, and it all makes more sense when everything's backed by policy and data.
Okay. wow, seems like you're the perfect example or how to start. So, but of course the landscape is changing
Yes.
a lot quickly. How is that impacting your strategy? Do you have to revise it, change it as well, or
we actually stick to
the plan?
Yeah, we do. We stick to the plan. Yeah. So luckily, we are now CSRD compliant. We're in the second wave. We have probably 2 more years with the omnibus, but still, we stick to the plan. And luckily, our double materiality analysis now that we did last year showed us that we were on the right track, because it would have been a disaster if the double materiality analysis and our initial strategy would go separate ways, right? So now we feel enforced. It's the same results again. So we feel like, okay, we were on track. We were doing the right things. So we keep going, even in sometimes the challenging political landscape, we just keep going.
That's amazing. So you always talk about we. Let's talk about employee engagement in the company itself. How do you ensure that the entire company, preferably, gets behind the sustainable goals?
This might sound stupid, but a lot of workshops. I did a lot of workshops. So when even in making the strategy, but when the strategy was finished, it's very important to include everyone. There are some key people that I need to include them in creating this strategy, or I need to include them in operationalizing the strategy, because when they feel when you just force them, this is the new way, it won't work. Mm-hmm. You have to sit with them around a table and say, okay, this is where we are, this is the goal. How do you think we can get there? And by having them around the table when creating strategy, but also while operationalizing it, you get buy-in from them. And I think that is the most important way.
And is this the best way to keep them motivated as well to attend these workshops? Because I can imagine at first it's interesting, it's new, but then you have to continuously keep them motivated. How do you do that?
Not everyone is continuously motivated. That is true. What also helps, I feel like that helps me a lot, is the fact that I'm really passionate about my job, and I'm sometimes told that my enthusiasm also helps to get them involved, which is always the biggest compliment to me when someone says that to me. So being enthusiastic and showing them how it can be great and it can be so fulfilling, and look at what we're doing, just the enthusiasm helps. And then when there's always the diehard non-believers, it helps me a lot that there's legislation on the way. So some people are just, they will never really believe, maybe, but they will have to, because you see, even there will even be some laws and regulations telling them to. So that's the stick behind the door.
Okay, that's nice. What are the essential factors for success in implementing such a strategy? Can you maybe name 3 essential elements? I can imagine in a sector like workwear, there's a lot of challenges implementing sustainability. Can you maybe share some insights?
Yeah, they are. The first one for me is keep it sharp. I've used that word a lot already, but it is a sacred one for me. Just a few focus points. If you focus in your strategy on 20 or 30 different topics, it will be too much. Mm-hmm. Focus your resources, your time, to just a few key topics. That's why, like I said, the double materiality analysis is interesting, because it really shows you the materialities. Mm-hmm. Most companies don't have 30 or 40 materialities. So just those few topics that makes most sense for your core business, stick to them. And sometimes it can be hard, because there can be a new opportunity, a very cool project that we're really enthusiastic about, but when it doesn't help for the bigger picture, it doesn't fit in the strategy, it doesn't help for one of those topics, then we have to say no to that one project. The second one would be involve the right colleagues. Mm-hmm. like I said, include them in the discussions, include them in workshop and meetings. Don't gatekeep, don't keep the information all for yourself. Inform them, give them all the information, the background information that they need to understand why it's important. And by getting those key people in the company on your board, make them ambassadors for CSR. That's also a very big push forward. And then the last one would be, well, there's more, but the last of the three you asked would be tie financial benefits to it. We are a company, and a company needs profit to exist and to keep existing. So not everyone is doing it because they're passionate about CSR. And if you can tie risks or benefits, and you can show to management, look, we in the future we will really start to lose money, or look how big this opportunity is, then you have a place at the table.
Wow, inspiring and very practical. Thank you. Maybe some final questions when we look at the future, of course. Future of the workwear industry as well. How do you see your role within the company as CSR officer evolving in the coming years?
Well, I'm a bit biased, but I think it will
What
only
do you
be
dream
more and
of?
more important. I dream of a big team. Like I said, I'm still alone in the company. But yeah, I really dream of having a team and having a colleague in my team that is doing the carbon footprint, and then one is really focused on the social compliance. Yeah, and I do believe that is the future.
Okay, so that's a call to action to your CEO today.
Yeah, maybe a bit.
If she's listening.
Yeah, but I do think that's the long term future, because like I said, there's a lot of legislation on the way, and it's a full-time job to fulfill the CSRD requirements alone, and then there's the deforestation, and then there's I mean it will only be more and more. Yeah,
that's great. And what about the future of the workwear industry? How do you see it evolving there, and the role of sustainability?
Well, safety requirements sometimes make it very difficult to be circular. So that is an issue in our industry, and a challenge that we need to tackle as an industry. A few examples: we really need some chemicals to be able to offer the safety that's required. An example is PFAS, a very good example.
Yes.
There are products today that don't offer the safety they need to offer when we cannot use those chemicals. So that is something to be mindful about, not just PFAS, but chemicals in general. But also circularity in general, repairs. I don't think that when you have a multi-norm jacket, which is supposed to protect the end customer from flames or from hot metals or something, we cannot just use any thread we like to we cannot even use any thread we like for an embroidery, let alone repair when there's a hole and we need to fix it. So the certification and the safety standards when it comes to repairs and reuse, that's something very complex. Also very complex is reuse. I think no painter would want to wear a second-hand painter's jacket when it's already full of paint. So I think circularity is actually quite complex when it comes to workwear.
So bridging safety with sustainability, that's an interesting topic for debate, I think. But of course, already pending a lot in your sector as well. We're coming at the end of the podcast. We would like to give you the opportunity, in a very enthusiastic manner, you have the opportunity to do a call to action to our Ellie community, our listeners, our viewers. Is there any message you would like to share? What call to action can you give to them?
I went to an event last year, and and one of the speakers said something that really resonated with me, and I wrote it down in all caps in my notebook, and it was, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. And it's not new, it's something I've heard in the past, left or right, but I really needed to hear it then at that point. Because when working in sustainability, of course, our goal is perfection, because we need to be perfect if we want to have a future-proof industry. But don't let that perfection get in the way. A job in CSR is a roller coaster. We go from hopeful stories and good examples to sad realities on a daily basis, again and again. So it is sometimes difficult to keep looking ahead and don't get stuck too much in the moment and look at, it's still not working, or we're still not there, or now there's this example. Just look back sometimes, see what you've already done, and then look forward again and go for progress, not for perfection.
Wow, that's a great insight. Thank you. And a very nice quote to close this Ellie Talks episode. Thank you, Céline, for your insights and your view on the future of sustainability in your industry. I can occur that indeed you are very enthusiastic. I'm sure our listeners and viewers will concur with that. So thank you for that, and good luck with everything. I hope you will get your team for the future, and let's continue to doing great things together.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
If you are a fan of the Ellie Talks podcast, make sure to give us a like or leave a positive review. And remember, there's plenty more inspiring content on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify or YouTube. We hope to see you there.